This is the story of how I made the pirate radio documentary, London Underground. This was a film that I made back in 1999-2000 when I was in the last year of my university. And it was a real labor of love. I grew up listening to jungle, drum and bass music. When I was a kid, when I was a teenager, pirate radio was a big part of my life. It was back in the days before YouTube, before SoundCloud and Mixcloud. So if you wanted to hear cutting edge underground electronic music, you had to listen to pirate radio, because there were only a couple of shows on mainstream radio that would play that kind of music. And the Pirates, it was kind of exciting. It was, underground. It was illegal. You didn't really know what any of the DJs looked like. It was where you heard fresh music, the kind of stuff that you'd hear if you could go to the club. And the DJs and the MCs that you kind of would want to see playing out were also DJing and MCing on the stations. I remember, as a teenager being in my friend's bedroom, calling up. You could get shout outs. They'd like shout your name out. Maybe you could request a tune sometimes. It was exciting. It was part of how the scene and electronic music really blew up in London, because it was like the internet then. That was how the music spread, and the culture was slightly different to the mainstream DJ culture. It was a real exciting time to be young and in London. And I was like, I want to capture this in a documentary, because if you got caught being a pirate, you could go to jail for 2 years. You could get all your records and all your decks and everything confiscated. So there was a risk, and they were shot. The stations would be in different tower blocks in different estates. And they'd be trying to hide from the radio authorities. Sometimes they'd have rigs right on the top of tower blocks and getting chased by the police. And it was kind of exciting for a young person. It was kind of that added to the mystique of the whole thing. And at the same time, the radio authority legal radio wasn't really playing the kind of music that people wanted to hear, at least in the underground. So this is why the scene was burgeoning. There were like 160 stations in London at the time. So I had a final project to do, and I was like, yes, we're going to do this. It's going to be awesome. And spoke to my group about it. They're kind of, none of them were really that into the music, but they could see how keen I was. And I was like, yeah, we're going to interview the DJs. We're going to get the police. We're going to get the DTI. We're going to get this station and that station. And I was really pretty full of it about what this documentary was going to be. And, my vision for it was definitely pretty strong. So they agreed to do it. I had one of my best friends, DJ Vec, DJing on Ice FM and Taste FM. And so I knew I could get, he was a garage DJ. I was like, yeah, I've got the UK garage thing covered, because UK garage was huge at the time. It was like the freshest or newest sound on the underground in dance music globally, not just the UK. So I was like, yeah, I can get him, get introduced to a garage station, Taste FM. And I wanted to get some jungle and drum and bass, because that was what I really loved. And at the time, Kool FM, it was the number one station. Like Kool FM, like literally, it was a who's who on who's been a DJ on the scene. Trace, Brocky, Nicky Black Market, Groove Rider, like all of the big names had DJ'd. All of them had almost DJ'd on Kool FM at one point or other. So I was like, we need to get them involved. But I didn't know anybody from there, so sent them an email. They were a little bit wary. Is this guy, is he maybe undercover police? Like everyone was very paranoid in the pirate scene. It wasn't like social media didn't exist. So the self-promotion that we're kind of used to now was slightly different. They wanted to promote, but they were very wary about outsiders, and I was an outsider. So I got put in touch with Eastman. He's the guy that runs it. And I would speak to him. I remember speaking to him for months, like literally months. We'd speak for an hour, half an hour, talk about the project, talk about the station. And he was kind of just getting to know me, making sure I was a trustworthy person that wasn't going to, blow cover on the station or get anybody in trouble. And once he felt like I could be trusted, he was like, okay, cool, I know, I'll put you in touch with MC IC3. He was one of the biggest upcoming MCs on the scene at the time. And so gave me his number. I called up, his name's Rog IC3, called him up, and we arranged a date. We were going to meet at the record store he worked at in Elephant and Castle. So I'd also arranged some other interviews with Nicky Blackmarket, the Radio Authority, and I wasn't based in London at the time. I was up in Lincoln at university. So anyway, I got all this sorted out. I went to my professor, was like, yep, this is the project, this is the plan. And he knew what I was doing. I'd spoken to him before, but he hadn't clearly really been paying that much attention. And when I exposed the full extent of what I wanted to do, filming in the club, filming in the rave, filming in the studio, he wasn't happy. He was like, this is illegal, it's against the law, we can't have you filming anything, illegal activities, we can't advocate that, and we don't have insurance if you're filming in nightclubs. What if somebody tries to mug you, or if you're filming up in a tower block in London, what if the police come? And was pretty negative about the whole thing, and was like, no, it's not happening. And I was trying to argue with it, look, it's going to be fine, and he wasn't having it. So I was like, okay, left that meeting and was like, well, yeah, I'm not going to listen to that guy. He doesn't know what he's on about. He doesn't understand the scene, and this is a great idea. Screw him. So on the last day of uni, before I broke up, because the plan was go down to London in summer, do all the filming, and come back, edit in the autumn. So I remember the last day of university, I had to go in to get all the equipment and the cameras, the sound equipment, the boom, all of this stuff. And I was really nervous because I thought, if this guy sees me in the studio getting all the equipment out, he's going to know what I'm up to. And if he doesn't let me take it, I'm screwed. Literally, I'm screwed. So I go in there, I'm on my own, really nervous, sign out, get all the equipment, the camera, the boom, the sound equipment, etc. And literally run out the uni, straight to the train station, get on a train, go to London. It's like, oh, thank God, yeah, got over that hurdle, got the equipment down to London. And I was due to film in a nightclub because I wanted to get some club shots. So my plan was to get a drum and bass night and get a garage night. So the drum and bass night, DJ Spirit was playing, got my friends invited, spoke to the promoters. One of the camera guy was coming down from Sheffield. We came down. I was like, right, you shoot the DJ, I'm going to shoot the crowds. We'll meet up in, an hour. We should have enough footage. So I'm doing my thing, just shooting shots of the crowds. He's doing his thing, shooting the DJ and the MCs. We meet up, and it's not that busy a night, but it's okay. We're like, okay, cool. Get to outside the club because he's driving, because we've got this heavy equipment. Cameras are huge back then. It wasn't a small DSLR. It was like a bloody massive Sony thing with a massive metal carrying case. And I'm with my friend. We come out, and I realized that the camera guy is hammered. He's supposed to be driving, and he is absolutely plastered. And I'm like, mate, what are you doing? We need to drive back to Walthamstow, where my friend lives. What are you playing at? We're supposed to be working here. We're supposed to be filming. This isn't like a party night out. And anyway, he's really drunk. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I've got all this camera stuff, very expensive. I don't want to be wandering around central London with very heavy, expensive equipment that I have no insurance for. So anyway, it's like, okay, we get in the car. He's like, yeah, I can drive, don't worry. Get in, pull out, nearly hit a car, straight away. The bouncer comes running over. Are you guys all right? Because we knew the bouncer because we'd been filming, and we're like, yeah, he's just a bit tired, don't worry. Anyway, get back to my friends. It took ages because we get lost, and I'm not happy. I'm very annoyed because I'm like, this guy is an idiot. Getting drunk while we're driving, while we're supposed to be filming. anyway, we had some filming on later that week. He was supposed to be staying at my friend's, and the next night I wasn't staying there, but he invites his girlfriend down. They go out again, get hammered, and I remember I spoke to him and I was like, yeah, I think it's best you just go back to Sheffield. Don't worry about it. I got this. Like, I'm just not happy because as I'm supposed to be meeting people, pirate radio DJs, MCs. We're in clubs, we're in tower blocks. I was like, I do not want this idiot with me. He's a liability. I cannot trust him at all. So, see ya. The only problem with that is I now didn't have any crew because I was interviewing people and directing, and I didn't have any crew. So I thought I need to get my friends involved. Like, they don't know anything about media, anything about filming, but I can trust them. So the first person I called was Nancy, a friend of mine from school, from childhood. So get her, call her up, and she's well up for it. She's really excited about this. And we go down, we're filming at Black Market Records, which is the number one, like I'd say, dance music record store in the UK. Definitely for jungle drum and bass, it was the number one. One of the most important record stores for underground music in the UK, bar none. We're interviewing Nicky Black Market. He's a legendary DJ from back in the day. Was there before jungle was even called jungle. So we there shoot through the interview. He's a really cool guy, very friendly, has some very interesting stories about how the scene evolved, etc. And that we have a really good time. Go back, then I'm doing some stuff in Taste FM. Now, my mate DJ Vec, Kev, he's one of the DJs, so we go down there together, and it was cool because I didn't have the pressure of only having like one day. It was more like just hang out in the studio, get to know the guys, get to know the DJs. I met Smokey and Uncle, the two guys running it. And it was cool. I remember actually even doing some shout outs on the mic because he was DJing and I would get the phone and just do a few shout outs for people. So it was kind of fun hanging out in the studio, just seeing what goes on in the Pirates. And I wasn't a huge garage fan, but yeah, it was good. Garage was massive at the time. It was like the new sound on underground in the UK and blowing up worldwide. So it was exciting. It was an exciting time to be in London and involved in the pirate thing. And I did some shots of people DJing and the studio, did a few interviews with different MCs and DJs from that station. Really cool, good stuff. And the next thing that was just me on my own doing that because Kev Vec, he was there to help out. Then I had an interview with Rog, IC3, from Kool FM. Now, Kool FM was the number one jungle drum and bass station, so I was pretty excited. IC3 was very big MC at the time, and I go down, we arranged to meet in Elephant and Castle. He works in a record store there. So I go down there and I've got two friends, again, no experience filming, but they're good friends of mine. I can trust them. I know they're reliable people and they're very excited as well. We go down, get to the record store, and Rog isn't there. He's not there. So I call him up. Rog, what's up, man? Yeah, I had to leave because of this, and I'm busy. So no filming. But I'll be at my friends in Dalston, MC Shocking and Riddler, two other MCs. So why don't you come down at 8? I was like, cool, I'll come down there, I'll speak to you, get the address. Trouble is, it's like 4 p.m. So I'm in Elephant and Castle and I've got all my equipment in a sports bag because I don't want people to know I've got $5,000 worth of uninsured camera gear in a bag. And Elephant and Castle, it was a pretty rough area at the time. So I was like, I need to conceal this. I don't want people knowing that I'm filming or anything. So 4 hours to kill. Fortunately, I had a friend, Ted, lived just around the corner on one of the estates in Elephant and Castle. So went to his flat, and they were doing a refurb. And I remember this, we're about 7 floors up, this scaffold the whole way round the perimeter of this. And I climbed out his window and walked the perimeter and was filming, because you got a magnificent view of the cityscape of London. And it was just, very spectacular. Eventually, 8 o'clock rolls round, call up Rog, I'm at my friends in Dalston, come down, we're at the flat. And gives me an address. Now, this is before Google Maps. Google Maps did not exist. So go down to Dalston, and Dalston was pretty dodgy back then. It wasn't a cool, hipster, trendy place. It was dodge. And we're there with this equipment, and I'm very conscious of the fact we're on this like really dodgy looking council estate. And I remember we're in a stairwell, the lights are flicking. It looked like something from a horror movie, because this light was flicking and there's like broken windows, and it just looked like a great place to get mugged. And when you've got £5,000 worth of camera equipment that you're not insured for, that was a little bit stressful. But got on the phone, Rog came down, met us, we went into the flat and shot the interview. And it was really cool. Shocking was there, Riddler was there, and they were really lovely guys, very funny. Shocking, he was a little bit older and very wise. It said some really cool stuff that you can check out in the interview on the documentary. And my friends, they were all really excited about it as well, because it was like, with MTIC3 and we're shooting this documentary. They were really buzzed about this. I was really happy with that. And we came back, and now I had one more thing I wanted to do. I did the interviews with the police, the DTI and the radio authorities, but I wanted to get a big rave, because the club that I shot at wasn't really that spectacular. There wasn't that many people. So fortunately, Taste FM were having their birthday, and I remember I went round to Smokey's place. Smokey was the founder of Taste FM, and there's a great scene in the documentary. There are 2 things that looking back retrospectively are very interesting, because at the time it was jungle, UK garage, drum and bass. That was the scene as it was called then. But we went round to Smokey's place, and he's got his set up in the studio in his flat, and he's playing an MC drum machine, MCP, and MCing, and it was like a militant beat. Garage was more of a skippy, kind of light-hearted beat. This beat was militant, and he's playing like these bass pads, which is kind of drum and bass, deep bass sounds, and he's MCing, and it was different, because garage was more, a little bit cheesy, some of it, but lighter, and what he was playing there was kind of dark, and I was like, yeah, man, this is good stuff. It didn't sound like the records with MCs on that you would hear at the time. It sounded different. And it kind of stood out like, this is cool. Not really heard many tracks like this. It's nice. I like it. And anyway, then we go down to Brixton to the Fridge, which was like the biggest club in Brixton, very famous nightclub. And I'm excited. I'm also a little bit nervous, because garage at the time had a bad reputation. There've been a lot of, when I say a lot, there've been some shootings and stabbings in nightclubs. And again, I was like, I've got this expensive equipment, and I don't want to get some guys trying to rob me in the club. But when we got in there, it was wicked. It was just, everyone was so friendly. People loved the fact that I was filming. The girls were playing up for the camera. Guys were like wanting to buy me drinks. It was like Goodfellas or something. I remember there, and all the MCs and the DJs from Taste FM, which I knew a lot of them by that stage, because I've been coming into the studio for a couple of months. They were all there, and it was just really good vibes. And I was like, yeah, man, I'm really enjoying this. This is really good fun. People are well friendly. And I remember shooting the video, and there's another scene that really stuck out for me. I was shooting Jada Flex, he was DJing. I'm in the DJ booth with him, and he puts on this track, and it was a So Solid track. Maybe their first track, I'm not sure, but it was an instrumental, and it was dark. It was militant beats and kind of like drum and bass. The garage scene was changing. It had been much more R&B kind of influenced, or American garage influence, and now the darker sounds, which were more, I'd say, a drum and bass influence, were coming in. And this was one of them tracks. And on the stage there was about 10 MCs, and they were all really, really good MCs. And I'd say that their style was a bit more of a jungle drum and bass style influence. They were younger guys than the really famous MCs at the time, and they're rhyming over this track. And I'm in the booth hearing this dark bass line and militant beat, and I was like, yes, mate, this is nice. This is not the kind of skippy jumpy garage that most people know, that most people would associate with UK garage at the time. It was a lot darker, it was a lot rawer, and the MCs were different as well. They were a bit more raw, and it was cool. And I remember thinking, wow, this is some cool shit. I've not really heard stuff like this before on record, and the vibe was amazing. Like, people were drinking champagne, people were just partying, there were girls dancing. It was going off in the club, and it was a real good friendly vibe as well. It was often that the scene is portrayed as a bit arrogant or people were being moody. It wasn't like that at all. It was so friendly. People were loving it. People were playing around, like playing up for the camera, buying me drinks. It was just a brilliant night. And even though I wasn't a huge garage fan, I was like, mate, that was what I call a party. Now, the interesting thing is, like, all these years later, when I watched that, and I was like, I need to put this in the documentary. This is fire. This was absolutely going off. That was proto grime and dubstep. And at the time, I remember there being like, whoa, like, this is some new stuff. I'm at the heart of something here. This is like historical. And it was like witnessing the birth of a new genre. And I didn't obviously quite know at the time, but I was like, this is different. This is fresh. This is a new sound. I mean, that was one of the reasons I loved underground music, because you would get these fresh sounds, people experimenting. And that was one of them occasions where I was like, this is fresh. This is something special. And it was like the inception of grime music, which is huge in the UK now. Massive, massive scene. Like, you know, it's gone international. Stormzy, Wiley, big international superstars. And that footage that I caught on that documentary when I was at that rave was, you know, the birth of grime and then later dubstep. That was like before it had been, you know, about 3 years before it had officially been named, or people like Wiley, which was one of the first, you know, known MCs from grime emerged. But when I watched that, I'm like, yeah, this basically is grime music, and it's very similar kind of structure to dubstep. So it was just a really fascinating thing to be there at that point in history and capture that. And the project, the thing that it taught me was leadership and teamwork, because I drove that project. I was really passionate about it. I didn't take no for an answer. And I was so enthusiastic. I was like, I don't care what it takes. You know, if I get kicked out of uni, whatever, I'm going to make this project. If they don't like it, that's their problem. But I want to make it. And I had to get, in touch with the record stores, the pirates, the radio authority, all these people who I didn't know, and some had some kind of distrust of people with cameras at the time. But I was so keen on it. I was so like, this is going to be incredible. We need to do this. It just drove everything forward. And the people that were in the project from my uni, the editor was amazing. Jonathan, if you're watching, big up. The other people weren't really so on board, but my enthusiasm was like driving the project. And the teamwork of what makes a pirate radio station is people didn't get paid for DJing on the Pirates, but that scene created the dance music industry that we know today. Rinse FM, the biggest station, one of the biggest electronic music stations in the world, originally a pirate, like bass music, drum and bass music, grime music. None of these things would have happened had it not been for the pirates. And they were a team. They had to trust one another. They had to work with one another and rely on one another. And Smokey actually made some of those kind of comments within the interview. And I was like, yeah, he has a really good point there. And it was the same. My friends had no experience with filming. None whatsoever. I literally gave them a crash course in 20 minutes how to do a camera. But it was more important that they were dedicated and that I trusted them and they trusted me, because that is what makes a team. And we can all build better teams in our workplaces, in our families, in our friendship groups, by who we choose to be around and how we choose to show up. Because teamwork, we can achieve way more than we can alone. And that was something that I really learned from that project that really stuck with me. The dedication and the leadership it takes to make something happen, and the way that a team is so important. Having dedicated people is way more important than experience, because experience can be learned, but dedication and commitment and trust, they're much harder to find. So that was the making of London Underground, and I will put a link to it in the description below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, and I'd love to hear your comments. Adios.